have to ask you. So I've done psilocybin a bunch, and I've done ayahuasca, but have never done LSD, acid. And you have quite a bit. So maybe the big general question is, what's LSD like? In the space of psychedelics, which funny enough, we haven't really spoken a lot about psychedelics,
Right.
except in the context of stoned Sapiens. What's LSD like?
Well, this is probably the third book that we want to talk about is
Tripped.
Tripped, because Tripped is an examination of the history of LSD, and that sounds maybe less interesting than it actually is. It's I mean, I find it fascinating. I had tried LSD. It was given to me by my girlfriend at the time, Anya, in Lower Manhattan on a Saturday night, 1993. So I was like 23. And she said, let's take LSD. And I'd never really taken any drug. Like, I'd maybe smoked a bit of weed, but I didn't know what a strong drug is. And she gave me this paper, and I took it, and we walked around in the East Village, pre-gentrified East Village. It's pretty cool, actually. And it didn't work. For like 1 hour, I felt nothing, and then I went into the toilet. I had a falafel or something. I went into the toilet, and there was a mirror. Like, I was peeing, and there was this mirror, but the walls had like lines, like they were painted in lines. Suddenly, these lines were started to like vibrate, and then the trip started, and it was such an powerful experience that I thought I would go insane. Like, it was the worst trip I've ever had. Like, because
You
it
got
was so
scared?
strong. I was totally scared. I didn't know what it was. I walked. I said to my girlfriend, "It's working," and she said, "Yes, it's working. I feel it also." And I went into No-Tell Motel, which was my favorite bar, just to be in a familiar environment. It's not a good idea on your first very strong LSD trip to be out in Lower
Yeah.
Manhattan on a Saturday night. But I also didn't know this, you know. So I was in the bar, and I saw my friend Dora Espinosa from Peru. She was quite a small woman. Like, she was only like, I don't know the American system, like maybe 1.50 meters. So she was quite short. Short is the right word. But on LSD, she was like this. So I
Like
saw
tiny.
her down there, like, and I said, Dora, do I look normal? Because you look very small.
Yeah.
And Dora's like, no, you look fine. I'm like, okay, I got to get out of here. And then we walked up to 2nd Avenue, and we saw like a bunch of Puerto Rican kids killing one of their, it was like a gang kind of, it was more of a druggy kind of, I mean, Manhattan back then was kind of dangerous in the East Village. And they killed one of them on the hood of the car in front of our eyes. We saw it. And I said, do you see this? Like, oh my God. And then they resurrected him, like they gave him mouth to mouth, and the guy was fine again. And we walked past, and we were not sure anymore what we were seeing. And this was a very strong hallucination. And then we saw a full-blown racial riot on 2nd Avenue. Like, people were smashing in taxi windows, pulling the drivers out, like getting, like it was like a GTA.
Grand Theft Auto? Yeah.
Right, it was like that. And
So most of this is basically hallucination.
I think so, yeah. And I have
But
taken,
it felt real.
it felt totally real. And so I was happy when the trip was over, because I thought I have gone insane, basically. I thought like there was a switch in my brain that had been like, something like I have now a chemical imbalance in my brain. I'm gonna be crazy for the rest of my life. I thought that. But after like 10 hours, it suddenly got, the effects wore off, and I became normal again. And I thought that was quite fascinating. So in hindsight, I thought it was a great experience, even though it was quite scary. But it also had moments of incredible perceptions. Like, I could see that the atoms are not, rigid. Obviously, everything's moving in our universe. There's nothing fixed, So I could see that. I could see that everything was basically alive, and that my previous perceptions how the world is just my conditioned perception, and that the world was very different, and just how you look at it, it looks different, and
So it's freeing in a way?
yeah, totally freeing. Also, it was much stronger than all the LSD I've taken since, and I've taken high dosages, so I'm not even sure if that was LSD. Like, there's also other
Sure.
compounds that are quite rare, like DOM or whatever. Maybe it was something else. But then I also spoke to LSD experts by now, also for the book Tripped, and it can happen that your first trip is much stronger than all the other trips because your brain is kind of reacts very strongly to it. Because what happens in the brain is basically that the default mode network receives less energy, and other parts of the brain there think more, communicate better. So if this happens for the first time, like your brain maybe is totally surprised by this like firework that's going on, and then creates like hallucinations to somehow make sense of it. Like there's a lot of things firing, and then so you see things that maybe are not there. But that's not usual on an LSD trip. Like you don't have I've never had such hallucinations afterwards again.
What's the usual experience on LSD?
It really depends on the dosage. If you microdose, it's just like drinking an espresso that lasts maybe for 2-3 hours in a very pleasant way. So you're just slightly buzzed.
Is it visual artifacts like
No.
color?
Then you would take like more. Maybe if you take 50 micrograms, the colors become more intense. But if you take a microdose of 10 micrograms, nothing happens. The trip starts with about 100 micrograms. And then you could see maybe it would be like I took a swimming trip in Thailand in January, and I took about 200 micrograms, which is quite a lot. Because it was so beautiful on this island, and it was kind of, will it be more beautiful if I'm on LSD now? And of course, every LSD trip also tells you about your life, like some things you didn't understand. Suddenly you see like, oh, it's like this. Like it's very good for, reflecting on your life, but it's also a lot of fun. So I swam for like 3 hours through the ocean, which is something you usually don't do. I like swimming, but after like 10 minutes or 20 minutes, I go out, but I was swimming and swimming. And so.
Yeah, for me on the psilocybin and ayahuasca, there's a intensification of beauty of the world around you,
Right.
whether that's nature, whether that's people, or whether that's your own memories of your past, or maybe your imagination manifesting itself in different kinds of visuals. On ayahuasca, I saw dragons of different kinds, and they were just really beautiful. And maybe I've never taken like a heroic dose of psilocybin, but everything was just always so beautiful, and I was just grateful to be alive and grateful to be in this world and get to appreciate in this most intense way. There's something about like you said, you could see the individual atoms. Like there's certain ways to deconstruct or maybe to visualize or reinterpret, revisualize the world that makes you like appreciate, holy shit, this is really awesome. This is really special. And that can only be done through the process of like showing you like a different version of it a little bit.